I'm here outside Wandsworth Prison, where several of the Filton 24 activists who are accused of breaking into the UK headquarters of Israel's largest arms firm, Elbit Systems, are currently being held. It's been almost impossible to interview any of them because many have been on remand for several months awaiting to see a court. Yet we managed to catch up with Sean Middlebrough, one of the Filton 24 activists, and spoke to him on camera for the first time. Can you just explain to our viewers how this interview has even been possible?
Everybody is very surprised at this situation, and it is incredibly rare for any prisoner to get temporary bail, which is what I've been granted right now. And the reason for that is because it's actually my brother's wedding tomorrow. You know, every few months, at least one of my co-defendants of the Filton 24 have tried to have a bail application put in, and then it's been denied. My bail application was denied earlier this month, but the High Court judge decided to give me temporary bail in order to attend my brother's wedding. I honestly think it comes down to my brother's character reference, talking about how I was there when he first got with his fiance, and I was there supporting him throughout that period. I think that anybody that would read my brother's character reference that the judge certainly read, it would bring a tear to the eye. And
does the fact that you've been given this temporary bail somewhat undermine the Crown Prosecution Service's claim that there is this terrorist connection in your case? Surely, you know, a dangerous terrorist or an alleged dangerous terrorist wouldn't be able to get bail for a few days to attend a wedding.
this is what every single person I've spoken to has said, whether it's fellow prisoners, whether it's prison officers, even the police who come to make sure that I was in my address last night. They were absolutely bamboozled, baffled, as I still am at this situation. It is one of those things. If a terrorist is out on the streets, surely that's a cause for concern. But at the same time, we have to look at the work that Defend Our Juries have done. They have held up signs saying, "I support Palestine Action, I oppose genocide," and many of those have not been arrested in the mass gatherings. Now, if there is ever another circumstance where you would be told the hundreds, even thousands of terrorists have collectively gathered in Great Britain's capital city, that's surely a cause for concern. It's a totally bizarre scenario.
I want to go back to the day of your arrest in November 2024, relating to the incident for which you're currently remanded in prison. Can you explain what happened when the police came and raided your house? How did they treat you and your family on that day?
Yeah, sure. So it took me by surprise, I must say. I was in bed, unclothed, heard police, 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 you know, the footsteps running up the stairs. They ran into my bedroom. I stood up, you know, naked, hands up, and then I was promptly manhandled and thrown up against my wall. The arresting officer actually, he had his arm in such a way behind my head that it pushed my ear up and then tore the back of my ear. So for some time, I had a really painful tear behind my ear. At the same time, there was other officers going throughout the house. They were arresting my mum in her bedroom and my brother in his bedroom. My brother is 17 at the time, and they, again, just in his boxies, had him in handcuffs, my mum in handcuffs on the living room. We were, I got the impression that they were raiding um, a violent terrorist who could possibly attack them, which was not the case, and never would be the case.
It'd be good for our viewers to learn a bit more about the conditions in prison for those arrested for protesting against, you know, genocide and the Israeli arms trade. Can you talk us through what an average day looks like for you in Wandsworth?
So this is the case in men's prisons. Nowadays, because prisons are so full up in UK, you do have two men in a single man cell, which is I mean, I could stand up, put my arms out, my arms to my ribs, and then I don't even have that much room in terms of elbow space to even move about in. So it's extremely cramped. A lot of prison comes down to what kind of cellmate you have, being in cells with people who, um, what kind of, I mean, I'm not going to, you asked, they can have violent diarrhea, which was my last cellmate person over 4 days. And this is like, they would be vomiting, projectile vomiting, violent diarrhea, regularly throughout the day. And where I sleep, I've got 2 foot until there's a toilet, where this has taken place. You're behind the door for 23 hours of the day. We have much of the same inhumane conditions that any other prisoner would have.
Has that terrorist connection that's been alleged by the CPS, has that impacted the prison conditions for you personally? And I'm aware you've got a son. Has that impacted how often you're able to see him?
In terms of my family and my son, I speak on the phone with Noah, and I haven't actually. I don't know. I'd feel really uncomfortable with them actually visiting me in prison because everybody's got to be searched, and I really don't feel like it's appropriate for them to be infringed on by the same prison that's oppressing me. This hasn't been my case, but I do know that from some of my co-defendants, especially the women, the sisters, they have been directly called terrorists and treated as terrorists, as if they'd done violent, despicable acts against, civilians. So I know that they've been exposed to that.
Palestine Action were prescribed while you were still remanded in prison. How did you hear about that inside prison? How did you react to that when it happened?
So I simply turned on the news one day and then saw across its rolling bulletin at the bottom, um, Palestine group has broken into RAF base. And then I was like, hey up, what has happened here? Before I come to prison, Palestine Action was popular, but after we were all arrested, I saw Palestine Action become a household name. And I'd inquired about like its sort of follow accounts on social media, and it was just rocketed.
In terms of how long you're going to be waiting to actually see a court, see a judge, it might be over 18 months, right? Almost 2 years by the time that you actually have a trial.
Yeah, it would be about that length of time before I had trial, and to tell you the truth, I don't even think it will take place then. And I've also seen many instances where either Elbit or the prosecution would frequently delay these cases for whatever reason. Maybe they just don't feel like they've got a strong enough case.
One of the Filton 24 went on hunger strike against her own prison conditions. But now more of the activists have announced that they will too. How do you feel about this? This move, and have you had any thoughts about joining them?
Yeah, so I heard about Tutors Hunger Strike, and they were again restricted in the sort of mail they were getting, or they wouldn't be told why they never received certain mail. So they wanted these restrictions to be lifted, as well as to get their old job back in the library, which was a good time to associate with co-defendants. I think they were all generally well behaved and well mannered political prisoners. I think that that's just how we are, as in our character. Um, but there comes a time when once you're a political prisoner and you're being held unfairly, um, there's definitely a role when it comes to um, protesting inside prison and protesting our conditions and simply just not tolerating it any longer. So once those conditions become so uncomfortable and unpleasant and unsensible, then I think it's important that you exercise the freedom that you still have in engaging in hunger strike, collectively with collective targets. I think it's important to have bail as a main target. I think that it's very achievable. You know, if I can get bail to go to a wedding for 4 days, why can't, you know, perfectly well behaved um political prisoners simply just get bail for a trial that might not happen for, you know, a year, 2 years, or could get pushed back even longer.
Obviously, you're going to have to go back to Wandsworth in a couple of days. How are you feeling about that? And how difficult is it going to be saying goodbye to your son and other members of your family?
Yeah, so this is my life now. This is what I go through. Again, you know, I've got 23 other co-defendants in prison as well. So, you know, if I've got to go back and I have to engage in a hunger strike in solidarity with them and the movement overall, that's what I'm gonna do. I think I might come clean and tell my son that I'm not just in London by request of the King, but I'm actually in London by request of the King's government to hold me in captivity in prison. Because you know it's getting to that point now where they're probably wondering why did he talk on the phone but you never see me.
If you like this video and you want to see Declassified doing more of it, please don't forget to like and subscribe.